Mission knock and roll.
What is up, everybody? Welcome back to the CrownHoops Podcast. We're on to episode number 28 now. My name is Jordan Daly. We have the whole crew back this week. This week with me, I have Mike White, Stacey Collier, and Ben Okazawa. Say what's up, guys.
What's going on? Let's do it.
This week, we are going to have our episode split into two parts. So you're going to listen to the first part right now. Second part will be released later on, probably this week, maybe next week. So in today's episode, we're going to be doing like NBA decade superlatives. So best of the decade. So we'll do like player of the decade, defensive player of the year, sixth man of the year, stuff like that of the decade, and kind of just look back on how great the NBA has been the past 10 years. And then the next episode we do, which will be part 2 of the best of the decade series, will be our top 10 moments of the decade. So look forward to that. But this is part 1, so we'll start with the superlatives. Let's get right into it. So we're going to start it off with player of the decade. We're going to go around the room and see who everyone's player of the decade is, and then there's some other categories, but we'll get into those later. So we're going to start it off, player of the decade. Mike, we're going to start with you. Who's your player of the decade from 2010 to 2019?
Really, I didn't really think there was a lot of competition for. I think it's LeBron James. You know about the championships with Miami, then back in Cleveland won his first championship there, and now having a successful season with LA. He's been to the finals. How many years in a row was it? 7 finals in a row. So just we've never seen a superstar this consistent for this long of a period. I think it's easily LeBron James.
Okay. Stacey, what about you?
All right. It's LeBron James, no question.
Yeah.
First of all, 8 out of the 10 years in this decade, he was in the finals. Miami Heat, Cleveland Cavaliers. He put up pretty much similar stats before he had the decade, but he did it more efficiently. Even finishing with shooting over 50%, including a career high 56.5. And even right now, he's averaging a career high in assists, and he's averaging a double-double, 25 points. So it's LeBron hands down.
Ben?
Yeah, no debate here for me. It's the same. Like Stacey said, he's in his 17th season, still going strong, still one of the top players in the league, in MVP consideration. And he's been doing it since before the decade started, but steady, strong. He kind of, at the start of this decade, he was just kind of hitting his stride, his peak. And like these guys both said, he was in pretty much every finals throughout this whole year. And, people are going to say whatever they want about his record in those finals, but, he didn't really have the best team always, and he was playing the Golden State Warriors in 2 of those finals that he lost. So, I'm not gonna judge him for that, or really 3 of those finals that he lost. So, I think for me, hands down, LeBron James.
Okay. So y'all know me, biggest LeBron hater there is. Can't stand the guy, but. Yeah, I hate agreeing with everyone, but there's no debate here. I tried looking for someone else to fill this category. I tried real hard. I couldn't find anyone. Hands down, I hate admitting it, but LeBron was the player of the decade. He was dominant. He scored, he passed, he rebounded, did whatever he needed to do. How many championships did he win? How many straight finals appearances did he have? Come on, there's no debate, and I hate admitting it because you guys know how much I hate LeBron. Absolutely hate LeBron, but that's it. Moving on, defensive player of the decade. Who has the best defense of the decade? Ben, we're going to start with you this time.
For me, this was a really tough category because MVP, it's one of those awards where there's always kind of the same guys in contention on a year-to-year basis. We had LeBron, all of us. But for this one, it's kind of different every year in terms of defensive player of the year. Me personally, just with my gut, I had to go with Marc Gasol. He's been doing it since the start of the decade with the Grizzlies. That team was really known for its defense, and he was the centerpiece of that as the big man in the key. And he's continuing to do it to this day. You saw him shut down Joel Embiid, one of the most dominant centers in the league, just a couple weeks ago. The guy had 0 points on 0 for 11 shooting. And he did the same thing in the playoffs last year. He shut down Nikola Vucevic, an all-star, Joel Embiid, also an all-star. So for me, it's just in terms of the most consistent, steady defensive performance from 2010 to 2019, I got Marc Gasol.
Your answer really surprised me. I thought I knew what you were going to say, as a Raptors fan especially, but all right, we're going to move on. Stacey, who's your defensive player of the year, or the decade, sorry?
Defensive player of the decade. I like that Marc Gasol pick. I think he deserves more credit than he gets. But my defensive player of the decade is Kawhi Leonard. I think Kawhi Leonard's the defensive player of the decade just because off this alone. When you check in the game and LeBron looks over and he sees you and he goes, "Oh, that says it all right there." He'll check the best player on the floor. He's a great on-ball defender, great off-ball defender. His nicknamed the Claw. And also he gave Giannis Antetokounmpo problems in 2019 in the playoffs. And we all know Giannis and the Bucks were dominating up to that point. And they was up 2-0 in their Eastern Conference Championship. And look what happened. The Claw scratched his way through and got them through to the NBA Finals. So I'm going with Kawhi Leonard.
Okay. Mike, who's your defensive player of the year?
Yeah, I have to agree with Stacey. I picked Kawhi Leonard as well. I mean, the guy has 2 Defensive Player of the Year awards, 5 all-defensive teams. I mean, imagine being fresh into the league and they ask you to guard prime headband LeBron James in the finals. And you go out there and successfully do it and win finals MVP off straight-up defense. His offensive game obviously came well, but we're talking defense. I mean, even in Toronto, like Stacey said, locking up Giannis, guarding people against the Sixers. I mean, Kawhi Leonard is the ultimate defensive player, plays both ways, can guard 4 positions on the court, almost 5. So, yeah, I'm going with Kawhi Leonard easily.
Yeah, I agree with both you and Stacey, Mike. Kawhi Leonard easily. The Claw, have you seen the dude's hands? They're gigantic. He can stop any shot. Yeah, absolutely Kawhi Leonard. And that's why I was really surprised, man, that you didn't pick him because obviously you are a Raptors fan and he did get you that championship last season. So I'm very surprised. Why didn't you pick Kawhi Leonard, Ben?
Just for me, obviously Kawhi's had a really dominant defensive performance from, as soon as he came into the league. But it really kind of took hold sort of 2014, that area. Marc Gasol has been doing it since 2010. So for me, that was kind of what formed my decision. But Kawhi obviously was a very, very close second for me.
Yeah, for me, I mean, Kawhi won back-to-back Defensive Player of the Year, I think 2015, 2016, both those seasons. I could be wrong, but I'm pretty sure it was right around then, or 2014, 2015, something like that. But yeah, dude is a beast on defense. I know teams specifically have to create new game plans when he's on the court to try to get the ball away from him so he can't get steals or blocks or whatever he does. We've seen him block buzzer beater shots. We've seen him do it before. We've seen him hit buzzer beater shots, but that's on offense. But moving on, 6th Man of the Year. I'm very curious about this one. In my opinion, I feel like we're all going to have the same person, but I don't know. That's just my opinion. I feel like there's one guy that just stands out above everyone. So I'm really curious. To those of you guys listening, we specifically made sure not to talk about any of our picks so we'd have genuine reactions. So I'm really curious to see what you guys have for 6th Man of the Year. Stacey, we're going to start with you this time.
Of course, I got to roll with Lou Will. I got to roll with Lou Will as my 6th Man of the Year. 1 consecutive 6th Man of the Year awards. Just put a starter S number, just 23 points off the bench. And 26 minutes of play or something like that. Just crazy production. But I was torn for a second between him and Jamal Crawford. But I went with Lou Will because I think Lou Will's more efficient of the two. And he's still going, and Jamal Crawford, unfortunately, is at home right now. So I'm going with Lou Will.
Okay, and Jamal Crawford's defense, he's 39 years old. Give the guy a break. But, Mike, who is your 6th Man of the Year?
My 6th Man of the decade.
Decade, sorry, I keep saying that. It's weird to say.
You're good. My 6th Man of the decade is Lou Williams, man. 2 6th Man of the Year awards with the Clippers, 1 with the Raptors. I mean, he's just consistent. I mean, even when he was with my Lakers, we traded him because he was winning us too many games. We were trying to get a top pick. So, look, it's easily Lou Williams. He's still doing it to this day. Sweet Lou.
Ben?
I mean, yeah, like Stacey said, it's really between Jamal Crawford and Lou Will because they both have 3, and all 3 of them for each guy is in this decade. You know, Jamal Crawford won his first in 2010, and they had a couple more later. Lou Will has, he won his first in 2015 with my Raptors, and then he's back-to-back in the past 2 years. But for me, I got to pick Lou Will just because, like Stacey said, he's putting up starter numbers coming off the bench. It's just ridiculous. Like year before last, 2018, Sixth Man of the Year, he scored 22.6 points per game, 5.3 assists. Jamal Crawford never did anything like that, and that's taking nothing away from Jamal Crawford. He's a great sixth man. He's a great bench player. He's a great player in general. But Lou Will is just different.
Fair. Yeah, when I first started looking into this, I did want to pick Jamal Crawford. I looked at his stats overall, but then I realized, the majority of his career stats are coming from 2010 and before. Prior to that, if you just kind of filter in from 2010 on, I was really only doing about 13 points a game, 3 assists, and a rebound, where you compare that to Lou Williams, and he's doing much better. I mean, this year alone, he's getting almost 20 points a game, and since 2010, he has, like 16 points a game, somewhere around there. I think Lou Williams finds a way to contribute off the bench, which is something that's hard to do. I mean, a lot of these guys in the NBA, they want to be starters. They want to be stars in the NBA. Lou Williams just wants to find a way to win. It's very rare to find a guy like that that's willing to come off the bench and do what he does. So, I would absolutely agree that Lou Williams is the sixth man of the decade. Almost said a year again, but I caught myself that time. It's really weird saying of the decade. How often you get to do this, right?
Yeah. Every 10 years.
Give it another 10 years. I'll get there. Franchise of the decade next. So overall in the entire 10-year span, what team has been the best consistently? So not like a specific year of a team. Throughout all 10 years, what team is your franchise of the decade? Mike, we're going to start with you.
My franchise of the decade, I'm giving it to the Golden State Warriors. Hadn't won a chip since 1975 with their own homegrown players, Steph Curry, Draymond Green, Klay Thompson. They got 3 championships and 5 appearances. They set the regular season record going 73-9. They had the first ever unanimous MVP. It's got to be the Warriors. And then even after 2 years, after going 73-9, to go out and sign a free agent like Kevin Durant and dominate for 2 more years, the Warriors have turned this organization around, and they're one of the premier ones. So I'm going with Golden State.
Stacey?
Same pick, going with the Golden State Warriors for all the reasons Mike just said. And plus, even before they went on their championship run, they made playoff appearances too with Mark Jackson as their head coach, and they really set everything off. And you can't go against 5 finals appearances, 3 championships, signing Kevin Durant, setting the regular season record. So it's Golden State.
Ben?
My answer is no different. Everything those guys just said. 5 finals appearances. And also just if you look at like what their front office did, it was all the front office. It wasn't anything to do with, their location or any of that. They picked up in the draft 4 of their best players, who honestly, like Steph Curry, Draymond Green, Klay Thompson, those guys are still with them today. And then you got obviously Kevin Durant. They picked him up in free agency. Andre Iguodala was a huge, pickup for them. So and they were just the most dominant team of the decade. Like those finals appearances, like for the most part, they were winning those series easily. So.
Yeah, I definitely agree. I hate that we're all agreeing. It's like it's kind of funny, but I don't know.
No variety.
No, yeah. I mean, how could you like not agree with that though? I mean, name another team that was even close up there. Maybe the Miami Heat earlier on, but they weren't able to keep that up. I don't know. Yeah, I think it's like an easy decision. Golden State Warriors. Like these are some of the things I'd love to bring into some of those like Facebook debate groups, because some of the people in there have the wildest takes. And Mike,
Yeah.
I see you battling with those guys all the time. The guys that you can tell don't really watch basketball, but they just want
Yeah,
to
man.
be keyboard warriors. Oh,
Franchise of the decade, Dallas Mavericks.
There was something the other day. I was on Facebook, and some guy gave his like top 10 players. He didn't even have like LeBron in the top 10, and he had Tim Duncan above Kobe. And I just remember reading Mike in the comments going off.
Yo, I just didn't understand, like, what is this? I need answers from y'all. Y'all basketball. I need answers. Tim Duncan is not Kobe Bryant all time. I don't know why this is a thing all of a sudden. Like, do y'all believe that? I need answers. answers.
No.
I mean, he got 5 rings too, don't he? And I guess he was trying to get Tim Duncan his respect. I don't know.
Tim Duncan's a top 10 player. I'm just saying he's not over Kobe all the time.
Right.
That's all. I had to scroll past that. Like, I was at work. I had to act professional, man, because I was just, oh God.
No, I mean, like, I feel like TD gets slept on for sure, just because of like the nature of who he is and all that. But Kobe's like, come on, Kobe's Kobe. You can't put Tim down here.
Mike, you should put all these into the Facebook group later and see what people say.
Man, I don't look. I'm trying to maintain my mental. I can't deal with it.
I'm not trying to have Mike break his computer.
Oh my God, some of the people out there are just keyboard warriors. Like, those Facebook groups are hysterical though. Like, the amount of times I'll see people be like, "Yo, I got a great shot and I can dunk. What are my odds of making it into the NBA?" Like, those are my favorite posts.
Oh yeah,
I love when they post like videos of themselves.
Like don't send me a video of your jump shot. I don't care. You're not going to the league. Like.
Oh man, and then the NBA Twitter trolls that do that. They're not really trolls. They're like the fan accounts or whatever they're called.
Yeah.
And they're all like 12 years old.
Yeah.
And they take like videos of themselves playing basketball and like, yo, work on your jump shot, dude. Fix your form. Hold your follow through. Like, I don't know. Some of them are terrible. We just got way off topic. Anyway, franchise of the decade, very clearly the Golden State Warriors. Moving on, team of the decade. So this is not throughout the entire span of it. I want a specific year. What team specifically was the best team of the decade? And I think this is going to get very interesting, and I'm going to explain why after everyone says their answers. But we're going to start with you this time, Stacey.
I'm going to roll with the 2012-2013 Miami Heat. I'm going to roll with them. Both of them top 5 offense and defense. They won 66 games that year. They beat San Antonio Spurs team that was a well-oiled machine themselves. It was a very hard-fought 7-game series. And then they were led by LeBron, and LeBron that year shot 56.5%. Matter of fact, LeBron, D-Wade, and Chris Bosh, all of them shot above 50% that year. So it was just dominant throughout. So I'm going with the Miami Heat 2012-2013.
All right. Mike, what about you?
Yes, my answer is different. I'm going with the 2016-17 Golden State Warriors. First year with KD, 67-15. They only lost 1 game during the whole entire playoffs. They swept the first 3 rounds, obviously beat the Cavs 4-1. I mean, this team was literally unstoppable. We knew what the outcome of the year was before the year started. We knew the Warriors are going to win all. You have Steph Curry, Klay Thompson, and KD on one team. We saw how unstoppable they were. They still had their depth. They had Matt Barnes, Sean Livingston, Andre Iguodala, Draymond Green, JaVale McGee. I mean, that team was stacked and no one stood a chance against them. So I'm going with 2016-17 Warriors.
Ben.
I got the 2012-2013 Heat. It's a really good pick. It's really just between those two teams. There's nothing you can say. For me, if the Warriors had won the chip in 2016 after going 73-9, it would be no kind of debate whatsoever. And they're, honestly, that team, they're less talented than the team the next year. But if they had won after that dominant, regular season performance, they won like 27 something games in a row that season.
Yeah.
To like at the very beginning under Luke Walton too. To me, the Heat, They actually won the chip that year against a good team too, because the Cavs were kind of reeling when the Warriors beat them the past couple years. So for the 2012-2013 Heat with LeBron, with Bosh, Ray Allen, D Wade to go out there and just handle their business against a really strong Spurs team, to me that just kind of puts them over the top.
Okay. I have the 16-17 Warriors as well. I'm with Mike on this one. Not only did they go 67-15 and win the NBA championship, they beat LeBron in the finals 4-1. How often does LeBron go down in 5 games? I feel like that's really hard to do. So for that reason, I'm giving Golden State Warriors 2016-2017 team of the decade. I said it right this time. But the thing I was talking about earlier is it's kind of funny that Ben and Stacey both said a different team other than the 2016-2017 Warriors. Because if you go back to our podcast this summer when we did the all-time teams tournament, all-time teams, baby, what team won it?
16-17 Warriors.
Mic drop. Mic drop, baby. 2016-2017 Warriors. Obviously, do I agree with that? No, not at all. I don't know how the hell that happened, but it did. Anyway, yeah, that's my team. No, but the 2012-2013 Miami Heat team, also a really good pick. I mean, that was kind of the beginning, early stages of the super team era, obviously with Chris Bosh, Dwayne Wade, and LeBron James. We saw some great things out of that team, i.e. the famous Dwayne Wade lob up to LeBron James dunk picture. Love that thing. But yeah, great teams all around. But it's kind of interesting that we had different teams. Oh man, you know what would happen if this was an all-time teams tournament, right, Stacey?
Flip a coin.
The coin flip would happen, Stacey.
Man,
listen.
Top 10 worst moments of the decade.
You won
Lucky
when
for you. I
You won
do
when
have the coin. I do have the coin if we're gonna do it.
He still got the coin.
I still got the coin.
He did won when it mattered.
Yeah,
It's tough though right now. I mean, can we leave off without having a specific team of the decade?
I
don't know.
So. Yeah.
We can't have 2 teams of the decade. That's not right.
All right, here we go.
All right, Stacey, for old time's sake.
Put in 2K. Just put in 2K.
For old time's sake, Stacey.
Put in 2K.
Stacey, we got heads, Stacey.
Oh man.
Heads will be the Warriors.
All right.
Tails will be the Heat. Stacey, congratulations.
Yeah.
Stacey, all right, so we're going to roll with the 2012-2013 Miami Heat on that one. That's funny. Because I'm pretty sure the entire tournament, Stacey didn't get a single one. But then it was that last episode where we did the Final Four. Yeah. He got all of them to go his way, which I find funny. So, Stacey, you're kind of on a hot streak now. Maybe the coin's on your side now.
Thank goodness.
Better things for 2020 coming up. Moving on now to more specific players. We're going to roll with the ball handler of the decade, who had the best handles of the 2010 to 2019 decade. Mike, we're going to start with you.
I think everyone who got to watch basketball this decade should be privileged to see the best ball handler of all time playing. That's Kyrie Irving. I mean, simply put, Kyrie Irving, I talked about it earlier, jokingly made Brandon Knight fall twice at the All-Star game. He's got the best handles I've ever seen since I've been watching basketball. He's got the best handles alive. Kyrie Irving's my pick for best ball handler.
Stacey?
Yeah, I got to roll with Kyrie Irving, too. His ball handling skills is, my goodness, I'm jealous. I want those skills. Give me 25%, and I'll make it out there, too. But when you do make somebody fall twice, and then you put Steph Curry on skates in the big moments,
Chris Paul.
Gotta roll with that. Chris Paul, and then that one street ball move that he did this year with the Brooklyn Nets. I wish he would have made that shot, but if he would have made that shot, that moment would have stuck out. So I'm going to roll with Kyrie Irving.
Ben?
Kyrie has the ball on a string at any given moment. It's ridiculous. Watching it is mesmerizing. I have no clue how he does it. It's not even just his hands either. It's his footwork, his balance. Just everything is on point. His body control. That's all that goes into ball handling. He's got the whole package. He's the perfect ball handler. I agree with Mike. Easily one of the top ball handlers of all time. So, yeah, Kyrie Irving, no question.
Y'all are killing me. killing me. I hate this man, Kyrie Irving. He's on my list lower than LeBron. I hate this dude, but I hate that I have to agree with you. I feel like there's no other option for this. I mean, yeah, he can dribble a ball, sure, but can he carry a team to a championship? Nope.
Oh, we're not talking about that.
We ain't talking
ball
about that.
handling. Ball handling.
Yeah, I'll give him the ball handling, but he ain't winning a chip without LeBron. Next up, we have the shooter of the decade. Obviously, this decade has been the decade of the shooter. I feel like a certain player kind of revolutionized the NBA into shooting the ball more often. I feel like this is going to be fairly straightforward on who everyone's going to pick. Ben, we'll start with you this time. Who's your shooter of the decade?
I mean, it's kind of tough, honestly, because we have, in this decade, 2 of the top 4 shooters all time, and they're on the same team. So it's kind of like they could overshadow each other at times. You know, obviously Klay Thompson has had some ridiculous shooting performances. He's just a pure catch and shoot guy. Like he took what was that game? He took, I think, less than 10
dribbles.
Yeah, 11 dribbles, and popped off for a ridiculous amount of points. I can't even remember, like 60 or something. But I gotta go with Steph Curry because he's the best shooter of all time, and we've been blessed to see him in this decade do his thing. Perform on a night-to-night basis, the most amount of 10-3 games by a long shot. Just the smooth form, he can shoot his limitless range. He's just a pure shooter. It's a lot of fun to watch. He can create his own shots or he can catch and shoot. I got Steph Curry.
So you have Steph Curry as your all-time best shooter? Did I hear you say that?
Yes.
Okay, so you take him over like Ray Allen and stuff like that?
Yeah.
Okay, interesting. Maybe we'll have to do a version of this, but like all time. I'm curious.
Oh, that would be so hard.
That'd be really hard. But all right, Stacey, who's your shooter of the decade?
I'm torn. To be honest with you, because it's easy to roll with Steph Curry. It's easy, but also on the other side, I'm thinking Klay Thompson too, because Klay Thompson just like that sneaky, streaky shooter. He did drop 36, 39 in one quarter. In the third quarter against the Thunder. But then you got Steph Curry, just that unlimited range, that quick release. And both of them revolutionized the game too. So I don't know. I don't know, but I think I'm gonna roll with Klay slightly. I'm gonna go with Klay Thompson.
Oh, okay.
Okay, I like that. Mike.
Oh yeah, I'm rolling with Steph Curry. It's not even questioning. I think he's got the regular season record for most 3-pointers made in a season. He's got like the NBA Finals record for most 3-pointers made in a game. He's already third.
Incorrect.
What? Who got it now?
Klay Thompson.
Oh, does he?
14 threes against the Chicago Bulls.
I said in the NBA Finals.
Oh, my bad. I thought you said.
Don't do that again. Hey, don't do that again, son.
I thought you said in a game.
No, I said NBA Finals. Most 3-pointers in a game. Third all time on the all-time 3-point list. He's easily going to be first by the time he's done. I mean, Steph Curry, like you guys already said, he changed the game. He made centers who can't possibly shoot. You don't see that a lot in the league unless you have a really big team. So Steph Curry really changed the game. I think he's easily the best shooter of the decade.
Yeah, so obviously I feel like Steph Curry is the easy option to go with. I want to play a little devil's advocate here and roll with Stacey on this one. So, this is tough. Like, obviously, Steph Curry is the greatest shooter of the decade. I feel like that's too easy to say. But Klay Thompson did set the record against the Chicago Bulls. What did I say? 14 3-pointers in a game. It's tough because they're both on the same team. So they're sharing all those. It'd be incredible to see if they were on separate sides of the court and playing against each other. I think that would kind of make things clear. I don't know. This is tough. This is real tough.
It's not. It's not tough. It's not tough.
I want to say Steph Curry so badly.
But
I gotta say Steph Curry.
I feel like Steph is just like the bigger name out of the two. But like, as far as like calm, cool, collected, you need a quick three to get you back in there. Klay got it. Sometimes Steph can shoot his way out of a game. And that game 6 in the NBA Finals 2019 kind of scared me a bit. So that's why I was rolling with Klay Thompson. But it's a real slight edge.
Steph Curry.
I mean, something interesting to look at if we want to get down to stats here. At least in the 16-17 season. I'm looking at everything else right now. Oh, wow. Even in the 17-18. I'm picking Clay. He has a higher three-point percentage. He's shooting them at a higher rate.
But he shoots less volume. So.
Steph Curry is the best shooter of the decade. Let's not get it twisted. He is the best shooter. Like, easily. It's close. Obviously, Clay is great. But we talking of the decade. Steph, we don't be saying Klay Thompson revolutionized the game. We say Steph Curry revolutionized the game.
Yeah, but don't Clay get credit for that too? I mean,
no.
So let me ask you this: if Steph Curry wasn't on planet Earth, never entered the NBA, would the NBA still be shooting as many threes as they are today?
Well, that just kind of proves my point. We don't know. We don't know that.
You don't think Klay Thompson would have done it himself?
Klay Thompson don't be pulling up like Steph. Steph pulls up a lot deeper than Klay Thompson. Klay Thompson might be the best shooter, but Steph, as far as he was pulling up, you had to guard him at half court.
Because Klay
beyond that at some points.
Yeah. Clay's like a catch and shoot guy that we've seen before. Like he's really different from Ray Allen, Reggie Miller. He's just kind of that spot up guy that you can dish to, like a Danny Green type of guy, except like a lot better than Danny Green.
Clay is definitely second, but I gotta go Steph all the way.
So do you have Clay close second, or is there like big gap?
If I have to pick one for the decade, I'm going Steph and then Clay. It's not a huge gap, but it's a sizable enough gap because, like I said, Steph is the engine that makes the Warriors go, not Klay Thompson.
Okay. And it's a really hard hypothetical because I would want to see, if a different team gave Clay as much opportunity as the Warriors give Steph.
Yeah.
Because Steph hits them efficiently, which is impressive because of the insane volume at which he shoots.
Mm-hmm.
But if Clay was given that same opportunity, I want to know how he would handle that. But we'll never know, which is why Steph Curry is the best shooter of the decade and of all time.
Yep.
All right, I'll roll with that. We'll go Steph Curry, our shooter of the decade. I like that. That's a good pick. Moving on from that, we got our dunker of the decade. This one was tough. I know we were talking up. We didn't say any names, but I know we all kind of talked about how this one was going to be a little tough. Obviously, we don't have a guy like Vince Carter this decade who's okay. Vince Carter's in this decade, but he's not dunking like he was at the time.
Right.
But who is y'all's dunker of the decade? Ben, we're going to start with you this time.
I had so many names in my head. You got guys like Gerald Green, Dwight Howard, Nate Robinson, Zach LaVine, Aaron Gordon, DeMar DeRozan even. But for me, I had to go with LeBron James just because with any of those other guys, like Zach LaVine is drafted in 2015? And he's a good dunker, but he hasn't been doing it that long. Dwight kind of had a period where he fell off in terms of just overall play, but dunking as well. In this recent period, and he's had a bit of a resurgence now, but you can't say Dwight Howard, can't say Gerald Green because he's kind of getting old and not really playing anymore as well. So for me, just as far as a guy who's been doing it from 2010 until 2019, just like the reason he's the player of the decade, LeBron has been throwing down ridiculous dunks for the entire decade, and he's still doing it to this day. So to me, it was tough for sure. There's a lot of names that were kind of swirling around in my head. But LeBron is the only one that I can comfortably say is the best dunker of the entire decade.
Mike, what about you?
I don't have LeBron. My best dunker of the decade, I went with Blake Griffin. I mean, people tend to forget early in 2010, 2011. First off, I'll never forget the game Clippers at Lakers where Blake Griffin dunked on Pau Gasol twice, and they were like some of the those 2 years. Blake Griffin had poster dunks on everybody you can name. Mozgov. I mean, he's won a dunk contest. Blake Griffin. I mean, in game, out of game, Blake Griffin is the best dunker of the decade. I mean, there was a time where, you were getting out the way if he's coming down the lane. Maybe not so much now. You got guys like Jared Allen who blocked his dunk. But back in the day, no one was getting in front of Blake Griffin, period, when he was coming down the lane. That's why it was called Lob City when he was with the Clippers. So I'm going Blake Griffin.
Stacey, I like this. Everyone's disagreed so far. Stacey.
I'm going with Zach LaVine as my dunk of the decade. Why I'm going with Zach LaVine? The man single-handedly brought back the dunk contest from the dead. Remember before he entered the contest, everybody, it started to get boring.
Yeah,
we ain't really want to see it. And then people missing dunks the first attempt, first 3 attempts, all that stuff. But Zach LaVine came in, dominated the dunk contest, and then he entered the next year after he won. And what did he do? He won again. That's hard to do, especially when we see all like very, very good dunks, special dunks from you the year before, and you come back even more creative and you win again. So why not hand it to Zach LaVine?
I'm happy and upset that you said that at the same time because I didn't want to be the first person who to agree with someone. But I also have Zach LaVine for all the reasons Stacey said and more. I mean, dude, in game and in the dunk contest, puts him down like there's no tomorrow. There was one specific moment, I forget who they were playing, but in game, it was like a step inside the free throw line. Almost pulled off that MJ dunk in game. He's obviously not the biggest guy. He doesn't have the size of Blake Griffin, LeBron James. He's smaller. He plays shooting guard. And the fact he's able to posterize people like that, I just love stuff like that. He's kind of what I feel like you take a young D Rose, right? And you mature him, obviously not as skilled as D Rose would have been at that point comparing to Zach LaVine, but just the dunking ability. I feel like that's what Zach LaVine has. Combined with his athleticism, I really like what Zach LaVine does when he's dunking. I don't want to say he reminds me of Vince Carter, but I really like his athleticism when he dunks and the things he's able to pull off, even in the span of a game, which is really hard to do. And kind of as an honorable mention, I just want to shout out Jaylen Brown. I feel like he's very underrated. Not decade yet, but pulls off some incredible dunks. I want to see him get a dunk contest invite this year. Dude did a 360 dunk in the game the other night.
Let's see that dunk contest.
Dude gets no credit. I want to see him get in the dunk contest. I'm going to start it now. Hashtag NBA All-Star vote Jaylen Brown to the dunk contest. Come on, man. Tell me that wouldn't be good, though. That dude has athleticism for days. All right. Moving on from Dunker of the Decade. Next up, we got Coach of the Decade. This one's going to be kind of interesting. There's one name that is going to get a lot of extra credit just because of what his team accomplished. So I'm curious if y'all are going to pick him. But let's start with it right now. Ben, start us off. Who's your Coach of the Decade?
First of all, I'm not picking Steve Kerr. If that's
Yeah.
Steve Kerr. And you can see it this year. Like, I'm not saying Steve Kerr's a bad coach. I'm just saying he had such a talented team. It wouldn't matter if he was a good or a bad coach. He would be getting those finals appearances regardless. But I gotta go with Greg Popovich. For his team because it's teams each year, and we've talked about this in previous episodes, that you don't expect to make the playoffs. Like every past couple of years, we've been saying, this is the year the Spurs miss out. This is the year the Spurs miss out. But each year he finds a way to get his team to it's his team. That's the thing. Because it's in his mindset. He knows how to shape his team. Like the Spurs right now, they don't really have 3-point shooters like that. And this is, like we've been saying this episode, like the era of the shooter. So for Greg Popovich to take a team who's shooting mid-ranges and has like LaMarcus Aldridge in that post-up game, for him to be taking that kind of dinosaur of a team to the playoffs each year is really impressive. He's got his finals appearances in this decade too. He's got a chip in this decade too. So I got to go with the guy, Greg Popovich.
Okay, that's respectable. Stacey, who's your Coach of the Decade?
I'm going with Eric Spoelstra of the Miami Heat. Just because when you get LeBron James and when you get Chris Bosh on your team, you are immediately expected to know how to coach that team and to win games. And he did that. He answered the challenge. And even when people was doubting him, 4 straight NBA Finals appearances, 1, 2. And then after LeBron leaves, people expected Eric Spoelstra to, and the Heat to fall off. And he went to the playoffs a couple more times after LeBron left. And even the years that he missed the playoffs, like it was down to like the last week of the NBA season. Then they was like that close to getting to the playoffs. And then even to wrap up 2019, the Miami Heat are 28 after many people thought that they are like a borderline playoff team this year. So I'm going with Eric Spoelstra.
That's an interesting pick. Mike, who's your coach of the decade?
I agree with Ben. I'm going with Greg Popovich. 2 Coach of the Year awards during this decade. His team hasn't missed the playoffs the entire decade. If you really want to think about that, Tim Duncan retired during this decade. Tony Parker left. Manu Ginobili left. And they still continue to make the playoffs. There was no down year. He's able to coach his team every year. I mean, obviously this year's still up in the air, but to make the playoffs every year with as much change as is happening to his team that's just a sign of great coaching. I mean, look at some of the coaches that have left from another. Mike Budenholzer, he's over there with the Bucks, and you've got different people around the league. Becky Hammon, I heard, is getting looked at for the New York Knicks job. She works. Tim Duncan is now on the staff. I mean, if you just look at what Pop has done for this league, Steve Kerr, another guy who was under Pop, so they're just popping into my head. So I think it's
was that
easily,
a pun?
It wasn't, but it sounded good. But yeah, when I think about Greg Popovich, I just think of consistency, greatness, and discipline, and that's what the Spurs always bring. So I'm going with Greg.
These are tough. These are like both really good options. I mean, Eric Spoelstra, one thing that he did, which is very underappreciated, but looking back on it, and obviously, as a Celtics fan, I can especially appreciate this because it's something that Brad Stevens couldn't really do last year. Eric Spoelstra's ability to kind of take all of those personalities and all that star talent that he had and make them work together, kind of like what Doc Rivers did back in 2008 with that Celtics team. Really hard to do. It's really nothing short of incredible what he did to make all of those all-star players work together as a team and get to the finals, what they did, win the finals. But coach of the decade, like in terms of the entire decade, I don't think Spoelstra did as much as Greg Popovich did. So Greg Popovich is my coach of the decade. We were debating if he's the best coach of all time just a few episodes ago, I think. The ability to get, like as Ben and Mike said, get a team to the playoffs every single year, that is like amazing. That is amazing.
Not even just this decade though.
Yeah.
The decade before it too.
Exactly. It's like nothing short of remarkable. And I mean, some of the players that he's had, and as Ben said, like every year for the past few years, we've been like, oh, there's no way. There's no way. Beginning of this season, I said it. There's no way. But I guarantee you, at the end of the year, I will be eating my words, and they will be in the playoffs as like a 7 or 8 seed. Without a doubt, he's coach of the decade. But I do have to appreciate what Spoelstra did. I do have to say I'm very happy none of you picked Steve Kerr. I feel like that would have been the easy way out just because his team won. Obviously, we're seeing that he's not really the best coach. This year, he kind of lost all of his talent, and we're kind of seeing, we're putting Steve Kerr to the test right now, and it's not looking real good. He's never really had to, I don't want to say he's never had to coach, but he's never really had a challenge with talent. He's always had the talent on his side, and now he doesn't. So this is kind of his coming out party, we could say, kind of.
Yeah. I mean, to be fair though, like even Coach Pop, give him that roster, see what he does with that. Like, I don't know if he's taken that team to the playoffs. Like, even still, he doesn't have a great roster, but he has DeMar and LaMarcus Aldridge. Like, Steve Kerr has really nothing to work with.
Popovich would turn Pascal into the next LeBron James.
Okay.
Obviously, I'm not going to go that far with it. But, Pop just finds a way to make things work. It's his game plan. It's his ability to make plays, kind of like Brad Stevens. One of the things I love about Brad Stevens is his ability to make a play right out of a timeout call. He's probably the best in the league at that right now, I think. But in terms of the decade, I'm giving it to Popovich. And I think we can all accept that. Stacey, obviously, you didn't pick Popovich, but can you at least accept that?
Yeah, I accept it. Coach Pop. Coach Pop is Coach Pop. He's Hall of Famer. But I had to show Eric Spoelstra. I don't think Eric Spoelstra gets as much love and credit as the coach as he should be getting. So I had to shout him out.
No, I agree. That's why I wanted to talk about that a little bit. I definitely do appreciate that pick, and I agree with those points that you made. That is it for episode 28 of the Crown Hoops podcast. Thank you guys for listening. As always, my name is Jordan Daly. With me, I have Mike White, Stacey Collier, and Ben Okazawa. We'll have part 2 coming out soon with the top 10 moments of the decade, and we will see you guys next week.